Hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'd like to welcome you to Bob Weber Auto Mart on Douglas Avenue here in Racine, across from Douglas Park. We specialize in 1-year-old, low mileage, almost new cars. And if you'd like to stop by and see them, or see them on our website, bobweberautomart.com, we could save you between $5,000 and $10,000 on your next almost new car purchase.
I'm Michael Burke, and this is Money Talks. Hi, I'm here with Bob Kramer, owner, founder of Creative Auto Restyling and Sunroofs. I had to look at that, but the acronym is CARS. So I think I got that right, at 3000 Romaine Avenue, right?
Correct.
We're going to lead off the show talking about remote car starters, and I'll explain why in a minute, but then we're going to go into some of the other parts of your business as well. The reason I wanted to do a show about remote car starters is because two things. One is we've had this absolutely brutal winter, and I was curious about whether more people are having them installed. And also, I bought a car about a year ago that has an aftermarket car starter, and it's just a beautiful thing, and it works unbelievably well. And so I had this awareness of them. But Bob, why don't you tell how does a remote car starter work, and what's connecting this remote device, and what's happening inside the car?
Well, this antenna goes up by your rearview mirror, and then that picks up the signal from whichever remote you push, and then that sends the signal that is hooked up to this, and then that turns your starter on, basically.
Is that a radio signal, or what is it?
Radio signal, yes.
Okay. And so that makes the same connections as if you were sitting in the car with your
Turning the key, correct.
And where does this get installed?
This goes underneath the steering column on the driver's side. And,
there are a ton of wires there. How big of an installation job is this?
first of all, you don't use all the wires that are on here.
Oh.
Just a portion of them, because each car is different. So yeah, you don't need them all.
Okay.
And it's probably a 2.5 hour job, depending on the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. There are a couple different remote units on here. Why don't you explain what the options are?
Well, on this one, this is known as a two-way, and that has a little picture of a car, and so when you push the button to start your car, it comes back and tells you that that's running on that little LCD screen.
Okay.
And so then you can shut it off that same way, pushing that button the same way if you didn't want the car to run, say. Or it would automatically shut off, and we set them for 20 minutes.
You can shut it off remotely too?
Right.
Oh, that's fancier than mine.
Yes.
Mine's just a simple press it once, press it twice, and a little tiny light lights up, and it starts the car, but it doesn't do anything more than that.
Most of them do, so maybe you don't, even though you have that feature.
Really?
Yeah. So usually hit it
it only seems to have one button.
Usually hit it the same way that you start it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, and what's your season for these things? Obviously, this is going to be mostly a seasonal kind of installation. When do you start seeing people come through the door or calling? And what's the frequency of installations typically?
Well, usually start the middle of November, probably, when it starts once we get our first cold snap, people start realizing. And then as we get into December, a lot of people like to give them for Christmas gifts.
Oh, yeah.
So they'll come in here and then buy the unit, and they'll take this unit home and wrap it up and put it underneath the tree for their child or wife or whatever, and then they put it in at a later date after they've opened it.
Oh, yeah. And how many of these do you typically install, like in a week or a day or something?
Average is probably 4 or 5 a week.
And then that lasts...
It's really cold, and that lasts till, depending on when we get our warm snap now. Then, then people will stop putting them in.
And are you seeing more demand this winter because it's so cold?
Well, this winter's been, extra cold, so yeah, there's been more.
Uh-huh. And what does it cost now? What are the levels of cost options?
Well, the basic one, which isn't with the two-way remote, would be around $300 installed, and then this one with the two-way would be $395, and then this also has an alarm option. You could add the whole alarm feature with it, and then that would be $495.
Yeah. One of the little things to get used to with these that I discovered a couple times by accident is you have to remember to, well, of course, your car, it's starting a locked car. And so you put your key in the door and you turn the key. Now the door's open, you get in, you have to remember to put your key in and turn the key before you depress the brake.
Right.
And I did that wrong a couple of times. I just automatically hit the brake and then that'll shut it off.
Easily done.
And then you have to, yeah. You also, there's also a summertime reason to have one of these. Why don't you mention that?
Air conditioning.
Yeah.
Air conditioning.
So you can do the same thing,
Right.
have that air conditioning cranked and get in a nice, cool car.
The other feature it has too, whether you have the heat or the air on, if you go to a convenience store and you want to get out and go in, you can just push that button twice while it's running, just like as if you started it, and then turn that key out and go in, and your vehicle doesn't even shut down.
Really?
And even if you don't lock your doors, if somebody were to hop in there, as soon as they put their foot on the brake, it would kill.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a nice feature.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if mine does that. I'll have to try that. Do you ever hear feedback from people after they have had one installed, just telling you what it's like to now have a car that they can start from inside their home or whatever?
Oh, yeah. People love them, and then they tell their friends, and then their friends say, you put one in for my friend, and I want one. So that's a lot of repeat there because of people telling other people.
Yeah. That is only kind of a small part of your business, though, although it's the seasonal reason that I wanted to come and do that show. But let's move on to what's actually the lion's share of your business, which is upholstery, primarily auto upholstery, but a little broader than that.
Yes.
How long have you been doing? I'm sure I know there's a real skill to that. I've seen your work table and the sewing machines and all of the different pieces lying around. When did you learn that skill? How long did it take you to become adept at it?
Well, every day is a learning process, but I started in this business doing this business in October of '73.
Okay.
And that's when I started putting on vinyl tops, and then I learned how to sew vinyl tops, and then because those are just straight lines, and then eventually learned how to do seats, which are more complicated. And, anything that is upholstered now, I do, restaurant booths, bar stools, whatever anybody needs. So motorcycle seats in the spring is big.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And now these old cars here, 2 of those. So.
Yeah, but that's the reason we're sitting in front of this, because this is a job you're doing, right?
Correct.
Obviously, somebody did a beautiful job, a restoration job. What kind of car is this?
This is a 1927 Chrysler.
Uh-huh. It's beautiful. Wood spokes, a wooden steering wheel, and so you're replacing the whole interior for somebody?
Interior and the top. This gets a vinyl top on it and a headliner, and the whole inside carpets, seats, everything.
How often do you do something like that, a restoration of a classic car?
Pretty often.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And that's mainly a wintertime activity, right? Because that's when the people don't want to have their classic cars out on the streets anyway.
Right. Yeah, they want to drive them in the summer, so that's pretty common in the winter that I would have a project like this.
Mm-hmm. But I'm sure most of your upholstery business is just things wearing out and getting beaten through use by kids and dogs and things like that.
Right. Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Now, what's the range of materials that you're applying when you're doing upholstery? What kinds of materials do you use? Leather?
Yeah, leather. There's leather on this 48 Chrysler stuff, and with cloth, and there's also vinyl on the sides where you don't see it. So all 3 pieces are used on this 48. The leather, the cloth, and the vinyl. So yeah, there's a variety of different materials we use.
If somebody was to reupholster their vehicle, 4-door vehicle, what length of time should they expect to have the car in your shop?
Well, if it's, I work other things in between of big projects, so, it might be in here 3-4 weeks. you know, because I work my smaller stuff, my dealer work and whatever in between, so.
That strikes me as something some people couldn't afford to have their car in a shop for 3-4 weeks. Do you ever rush a job, and what would that, how long would that take?
Well, anybody who's planning on having the whole interior done knows that it's gonna take a little bit of time anyhow.
Okay, they're probably
So
gonna
they
rent a
plan
car or
for it.
something like that.
Yeah, they plan for
Yeah,
that, so.
What's the cost starting point for reupholstering a vehicle?
Whole interior, probably starting at $2,000.
Yeah, and you said that's more than half your business is the upholstery work,
Yeah.
right? You also do, let's talk about a couple of your other services. You do tinting of windows and windshields.
Window tinting, yes.
And I learned something interesting from you before the show, which is that, maybe I should have known this, but it's illegal in Wisconsin to tint your windshield, but what can you do with a windshield?
You can put the strip across the very top of it, a 4-inch strip, which is known as an eyebrow.
Okay.
That you can put up there.
And so when you're tinting a car, you're typically doing all the side windows and maybe an eyebrow strip or something?
And the
like
back window, yes.
that? How long a job would that be?
It takes
same day?
2
or-
hours.
Okay, so that's the same day thing. Drop it off in the morning, get it back.
Yep.
And what does that start at cost?
4-door car is $195 for all the windows. It'd be $2 1/4 if you needed an eyebrow strip.
Okay. You also do repairs of sunroofs, primarily not installation because a lot of cars come with sunroofs.
Well,
these
I
days,
still
right?
do installation, sure. I
Oh,
have
yeah?
some back there, yep. So, yeah, I install them besides repairing them. I put my first sunroof in 1977 in a 77 Olds Cutlass.
That's got to be a tricky process, I would think. You're cutting through the metal of the roof, and you're probably working with, what, rubber seals all the way around or something?
Well, the seals all come attached to the sunroof unit, so once you cut your hole in the car and set the roof in there, I mean, all your rubber seals and everything are pretty much attached to that, and you just bolt that sunroof in, basically, and then stretch the headliner over the hole and trim it out, and away you go.
Sounds like a very exacting job.
Yes, it can be.
And then these are, I mean, are they retractable, or they pop up into open position, or?
I have 4 different styles, actually. The pop-up is a glass, and that pops up in the back, lets the air out, or you can take the glass off. Then the next one would be the glass electric tilt and slide above the roof. The back of that pops up, and then it slides on top of the roof. You'll see a lot of new cars like that. And then also I have the one that drops down and slides underneath the roof and retracts fully, opens up all the way.
Yeah, okay. And you had mentioned you do a lot of, probably more repairs than installs, though, on those?
Yeah, I do a lot of repairs for the factory ones that are leaking or stopped working or whatever. So yeah, I do a lot of repairs besides installing them.
And very briefly, in the last minute or so we have, did we miss anything of the very services that you offer here? You do much with like pickup trucks?
A lot of truck accessories, yeah, the tunnel covers and step tubes on the sides, whatever truck accessories there are, mostly tunnel covers and step tubes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Bob Kramer of Creative Auto Restyling and Sunroofs, or CARS as an acronym. Thanks for being on the show, and I hope if people hadn't thought about remote car starters, maybe they'll give it some thought, and it's not that unaffordable, and I can testify they're great
They're
to
nice.
have. They're
Yes,
really
they are.
great to have.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so thanks, Bob. Thanks for watching. Thanks to our producer, Greg Shaver, and please remember, money talks.
Hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'd like to welcome you to Bob Weber Auto Mart on Douglas Avenue here in Racine, across from Douglas Park. We specialize in 1-year-old, low mileage, almost new cars. And if you'd like to stop by and see them, or see them on our website, bobweberautomart.com, we could save you between $5,000 and $10,000 on your next almost new car purchase.